We start with something discussed at length last week. Of course, we didn't know the subsequent news that Kieran Shoemark was going to lose his job as #1 rider to John and Thady Gosden, but that is now official. Did you feel it was coming after last week?
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously, if you listen to John Gosden's interview immediately after the race, you kind of felt like, oh dear, that doesn't sound too good for Kieran Shoemark. I saw Richard Hoyle's put some interesting figures out there. You know, if you want to measure things statistically in horse racing from a betting point of view, you should always look at actual over expected. And actual over expected for Gosden trained horses this year, 0.82. So if they were, you know, if you were going to break even on them, it would be 1.0. So they're running below what they ought to be. If you just look at Gosden trained horses ridden by Kieran Shoemark, 1.27. So, you know, if you want to say who is the best available, well, the best available, if you look at Gosden trained horses ridden by anyone else other than Kieran Shoemark, 0.45 this year. So the question of who is the best available on the jockeys that they've used this year is Kieran Shoemark. So, you know, I don't know. I felt like, yeah, obviously if someone gets the sack for one ride, you know, that would seem to be a bit unfair. But, you know, personally, I didn't really think it was that much of a bad ride. You know, the horse possibly didn't like the dip. You know, if you're in a race where the pace is really slow and you've been told to hold it up, or you've chosen to hold it up, what the hell are you going to do? It's not a jumps race. You can't just go, oh, I'm just going to leap through to the front and take it up because there's no pace on. I don't know, maybe Kieran Schumark should be sacking John and Thady for not running a pacemaker. Maybe it's their fault. I don't know. What do you think, Marco?
Well, you have to feel for both sides. Obviously, the general view, we feel sorry for Kieran Schumark because he's a young jockey. He's very talented, of course, and I think it just was bad luck. You know, in my opinion, the ground was different to the Clarehaven. Was definitely much quicker. You can see what he was doing early in the race. You know, the horse was just a little bit free, and he wanted just him to drop his head and get him settled. And of course, the pace wasn't that strong. William Buick is riding at the top of the game. And,
oh yeah, great ride, great ride.
And he had the first run, and he sort of going into the dip, he kicked in and he got a few lengths advantage, and obviously, yeah, it was Kieran was closing the gap as the line probably came too soon.
In a situation where the Gosden yard, I know the bell rang. In a situation where the Gosden yard, they've got so many owners that have their own jockey. You know, I think Philippa Cooper likes to. She likes to use Rab all the time, and Judd Want. You know, there's different things going on there with owners, isn't there? I can't feel that Kieran Schumark's going to get too much of a sniff now at all, really. I mean, he's still ridden a few for them. He's going to ride some next week, but maybe, I don't know, he should, if he rings up next week, I mean, do you think he'll get support from lots of other Newmarket stables?
Well, he's got 2 classic rides today. So,
yeah.
In France with Charlie Fellows, he's got to go.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't think long term will affect his career at all, because Kieran is very good jockey. He's intelligent, he's young, he's determined to ride the big wins, and I'm sure he will bounce back. It was unfortunate. You can feel for a Gosden team. You know, you waited, been waiting to have a Guinness winner, and you finish so close. You know, frustration obviously is. You can avoid it, and so you have to feel for both sides, you know. And but Kieran, you know, we all the top jockeys has happened in the past. I'm sure it has happened for William Buick. You know, you just don't win, you get beat a short head, and you know, you think about if he quicken earlier, if he kicked, you know, and or if he waited a little bit longer, he would have won. So this is the debate in racing all the time.
Talking of top jockeys, Hollie Doyle, #1 ever female rider now. That's our next talking point. Hollie's made history. What an achievement, Marco. You know, I don't know whether people thought it would be done, how long it would take, and you know, she's still so young.
It's unbelievable what she achieved in a very short term, you know, and I'm sure there will be plenty to come. Obviously, female jockeys that have been doing really well, and you know, it's Ellie Turner and Safi. I mean, she's coming along, and she's really riding, you know, big races, and Ollie, great jockey. As it been said in the Racing Post, that she's a great person. You know, usually in the race, when you don't really give as a trainer, you don't really give instruction to that kind of jockey. You know, to Holly would do her own work, and then knows exactly where the pace come from, and where she wants to be in the race, and she's so strong in the finish as well. So yeah, it's you know, just a full package basically. But she rides when she's available. She rides quite a lot for us, and yeah, and I mean, my owners, they're happy to have a Hollie on anytime.
And it feels like the narrative is changing slightly. We celebrate the landmarks like this, leading ever female rider, but then it's very much back to, you know, it's no longer.
She's a great jockey.
Yeah, and I feel there has been a shift on that.
Specify any asterisk by it, do we? She's a great jockey. It's weird though, because like when Frankie Dettori announced his retirement, I think she was odds on to become, if Gosden, you know, the next Gosden appointed stable jockey, and then he kind of hasn't really.
Well, it was the Nashua 3-year-old season.
Yeah. And then after that, I think she was something like 6-1 to be champion jockey, and I feel like she's kind of in the last year not had such a great time as she was having, kind of 3 years ago. Which I don't know whether people are. I guess she's busy all the time. Are people supporting her as much as they ought to, given how good a jockey she is? I don't know.
I don't think that's numbers, though. I think that's just waiting. Just the next 1 or 2 real, you know, proper Group 1 horses. Because we come off the back of a true Shan Nashua era. I think is probably what it is.
Yeah, probably.
Jockeys Global Challenge. So John Ferguson is one of the individuals behind this $15 million Global Jockeys Challenge. 12 of the world's leading riders, including William Buick, Ryan Moore, Sheen Murphy. I think it needs backing, but they are being celebrated around the world.
I mean, you know, obviously I've got a lot of respect for jockeys. Anybody that goes to work every day and gets followed around by an ambulance deserves our respect. Am I going to watch the programme or think of it, you know, in a, you know, people talk about that kind of, what's it called, Drive to Survive, is it called? I don't know, the motor racing thing. And I think racing has been kind of trying to do that quite a lot, hasn't it? They've had the programme in America. Obviously, we've got the English version. And, you know, it's difficult because horses can't talk, obviously. And so jockeys are the you know, make it. I think in the American show, you know, the run up to the Kentucky Derby, there was a big focus on the owners, and quite a lot of people over there were sort of criticising and saying, well, it's just a documentary about a load of rich people talking about money.
But it's watchable because of the characters.
Yeah, no, I'm not. But that is a criticism you could make. Whereas obviously the jockeys are much more participants in the sport in that they're out on the track more than the owners are participants in the sport, I think. And so I can see the impetus to try and, you know, make more of jockeys generally. I don't know, should jockeys be front and centre of the sport and its marketing more than owners, more than trainers?
Well, it's obviously it's all a team, isn't it? You can't do one without the other. So, but I personally think I read a little bit about it, and I think any initiative, any support for the sport, and will attract the interest from outside, and I think it's a great idea, but I don't quite know the full details how it will work and long term. But no, it sounds like a great idea to get a team.
Sounds like a good earner for the jockeys potentially.
Yeah.
And the world is, getting smaller, as we say, and trying to tie in some of these big racing, and the jockeys can be the vehicle to do exactly that. 72-hour Derby decks trainer perspective on this. Aidan O'Brien has been very diplomatic, but he wasn't supportive per se. What do you make of it?
I personally think maybe for Aidan, with so many entries, it might have an impact. It might make a different. I agree with other trainers that they would definitely know 72 hours before they're going to run in the Derby. So yes, the ground can change those things, but I don't really see a disadvantage or a downside.
Yeah, surely most trainers, like 99% of trainers, know a month before the race, this is my Derby horse. Or once it's run the trial or it's done its last serious bit of work, this is it, it's running. And even if the going changes slightly, they're still going to run it, aren't they? I guess you can see with Aidan it can be difficult because if he's got 4 or 5 potential Derby horses and has to decide which ones are going to go to the Irish Derby, which ones are going to go to the French Derby, one treads on a stone, the going changes massively at one of the tracks. He's got some shuffling to do. But for the greater good of the sport, punters having access to the full race card and knowing exactly who's going to run, the betting shape of the race, it just makes it something. And for the media as well, to sell the race, to have the narrative and to know who the contenders are several days before, it's got to be a better thing, surely.
Do you think that'll make a difference? Because, like you say,
it's a small difference, isn't it? It's not a huge difference.
Because you know what's going to run. It's kind of sort of one team anyway that you're just not certain on because of the number of possibilities and that type of horse they have. So I guess it's a double-edged sword, isn't it?
Well, when we talk about, Cheltenham and all that shilly-shallying around about horses where they run in the Supreme or the 2.5 mile novice and you don't know until the last minute, it's damned annoying, isn't it? It's really annoying. Anti-post betting, promoting the races, Cheltenham previews, talking about the races. And, so any time that the sport can clarify those things and give people a chance to sort of start talking about who's actually going to run in the race, that's got to be better.
Drop in foal numbers and nosedive in the number of foals bred in Britain each year. Is that something you as a trader are seeing the effect of, Marco, or not necessarily?
Yes, I think it's a big concern, to be honest. I mean, when you look at the numbers comparing to, I was reading it was 2007, there were like 7,000 foals, and now it's down nearly half of it. It has to be a concern, and mainly I would say it goes down to rising cost again, and the nomination they are expensive, and to just raise foals is the breeders they hope or they dream to go to book one and make money, but generally we go to the sales, including myself, we look for bargains, and sometimes we ended up just paying what is just their cost, and no, really there's no profit, which a lot of times I feel sorry because I say, well, without breeders, the industry wouldn't exist, isn't it? So
do you think the focus has become too much on the tip of that iceberg, on the top end, which is, we've seen it throughout the sales in the last few weeks with the breeze-ups. The top end are the headline makers, that the money is there, but if it's not in the middle and lower end, that's why your numbers are going to go down.
Absolutely. I think that's exactly what is happening at the moment, and just breeders, they just find hard to, if they don't get sold, and then they to put in training, and of course it costs money to have horses in training, and therefore they just give them away. But that's not how the industry should be. So we've seen the breeze up and book one last year. The top of the market is very strong and is very competitive, but the middle and is just. Yeah.
What's the solution? Yeah. How do you solve that problem?
I don't know. Other countries, they have premium for breeders. Would that help? we have to bear in mind nowadays for a breeder, once the horse is sold, the yearlings they sold, they don't get anything else except they hope, that they get black type and that they can put a value on the mare and on the next progeny. But something should be looked into it. I think, like in France, it's I think breeders they get a percentage back, and that's probably. I mean, I'm not an expert, but I know maybe that should be the way.
Where does that come from? That money?
Good question.
I don't know. It always seems strange to me watching horses sell for millions and millions at the top and other people down the bottom totally struggling. And obviously I'm generally into a bit of redistribution of wealth.
Yeah, it's I guess the framework of the sport and how the money goes down the chain of the sport. The other point we've got just on this is the numbers of races aren't changing. We still have all these races for.
Well, I mean that's.
We've got a dwindling foal population.
If we can go 20 minutes over the bell,
but
there are too many races. There's too much racing, which is probably why. Oh no, it's the last one.
We'll come to race deletion. Flutter. I'm going to serve this over to you, really, Neil. But particularly in America, Flutter announcing record profits. We know in the UK that there's a lot of doom and gloom about the industry, particularly in horse racing terms. The gambling industry in America, as predicted it might, appears to be booming.
Well, yeah, it's all a bit crazy out there. It's gone a bit Wild West. Actually, funnily enough, these figures that Flutter put out on Tuesday, so they just had March Madness in America, which is a big college basketball tournament. I can't remember. I think they start with 256 teams and they play knockout, obviously down to one. I think from 64, it might have been from 32 teams in, every single favourite won, which is kind of ridiculous, in head-to-head matches. Lots of 1 to 2 favourites, 1 to 3 favourites. There wasn't a single upset. So obviously the American bookmakers, when they're putting out their, figures, they're saying, well, of course, it's been very tough results, which I never really understand that. Like, why, if you're buying shares or selling shares at a bookmaker, what do you care about the results of the basketball last month? Obviously, that's nothing to do with the fundamentals of the business. I don't know, the market reacted by Flutter shares going slightly down, and I think Peabody, the analysts, said that they were slightly disappointing bunch of figures. But I thought the interesting thing to pick up from it, there was a tiny kind of almost a sort of base, what do you call it, sort of hidden in the background. It said that domestic horse racing betting had gone down, and the amount on it was quite a bit down. And obviously we know that's all to do with affordability. And sadly, losing good customers to the black market.
Yes. Did you just on that? Did you have a response to? Did you see last week's show? Straight over it.
Now you've really bowled me. I do normally watch every week. I don't think I saw last week's show. Actually. Don't worry, he's not here. He won't know.
Then I can't go into it, that's fine. But you have then admitted you didn't see last week's show. And you watched ITV Racing midweek. So do you need to speak to someone about your racing TV? Would you like to? I can get someone on the phone.
That's terrible. Yeah. I mean, I'm supposed to be on the gravy train. I still pay for racing TV.
Really?
It's absolutely ridiculous.
Goodness me. Unbelievable.
And I'll be paying to go to York this week as well. I just throw that out there in case William's still watching.
Race deletion. This was in the week we lost a race at Stratford. It's because of the new initiative that was brought in. Class 4, 5 and 6 on the flat. Class 4 and 5 over jumps have to have 4 runners. Trainer perspective, if this was you and you had a horse that was going to run and the race was cancelled, how frustrated would you be?
Well, you can see the reason they're doing it, but then. I mean, no one wants to see a small field, and I'm sure it's not very good for betting. But it's something. Things have to change all the time. The review, and I'm sure that there's people there reviewing and thinking is a good idea. But from a trainer point of view, it is frustrating, and you know, when you're trying to explain to owners that the race has been cancelled because didn't attract enough runners, you know, it's just.
Is it a good idea?
I saw the National Trainer Federation were getting quite cross about it, and I think they had somebody saying, "Oh, the owners in this particular race had booked their hotel, and you know, they were going to have to cancel it." Which, but I just kind of find it funny, because if you ask people in racing about, you know, the number of races that we have, generally speaking, I think most people in racing say there's too much racing. But any time the BHA try and do something about that by getting rid of small field races, which are useless from a betting point of view and unattractive from a TV viewing point of view, they get pushed back. So I kind of feel like this is, you know, the frustration to me. I mean, personally, if I, you know, I would rip up the whole calendar and start again. I think the fact that it's a Sunday today. What are we now? We're well into May. It's a beautiful, hot, sunny day. We saw William Derby talking about the Dante. The sun was shining. Where's the racing from this afternoon? Ludlow and...
on the chat, yeah. So we've got Leopardstown and Killarney.
Yeah, I know, but that's Ireland, isn't it? We're talking about the BHA, the British horse
Plumpton, Ludlow, I mean, Newcastle.
It's ridiculous. We're in the middle of May and we've got 2 jumps races on a Sunday.
I think, yeah.
And also one of them has got, you know, 28 runners declared, I think there was at Ludlow. So, I mean, how have we not got decent Sunday flat racing? And you know, there's just so many things that you could change about it. How do we run the Grand National after we've already had the Lincoln? You know, this is all mental.
Just
there
back
should
to
be a break between the 2 seasons. There's far too much racing, and this is just a minor thing that the BHA have tried to do to get rid of races that people don't really want to watch and don't want to bet on.
And
there's
races,
a massive pushback.
But as Marco touched upon there, the phone call you make to an owner who was meant to be going.
Yeah, I mean,
and I think fundamentally annoying, upsetting owners.
Well, that's a bad thing, and obviously you're upsetting specifically the people that are supporting
that are putting the money into.
But what do you do? Bring up all the other owners and say, "Look, you didn't enter onto this damn race." You know, like you've got it. Nobody wants to watch those races. If that race was on ITV, they would juggle the races around and put a different one on and make that one a non-TV race, which shows how appealing it is to people.
If you're given the option to enter into a race that you know is not going to have too many runners, to give you and your owner a chance to go and win a race, you're going to do it.
Of course you are.
The option shouldn't be there. Then take it away and upset the people that put in money to sport.
Doesn't feel
the right way to go about it.
There is too much racing.
That is talking point.
Oh, just quickly. Oh, God.